Good afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Welcome to day 12 of A Question a Day Keeps the Bad ATAR away. Today we're talking about tax, almost guaranteed. So it's one of those things where I guarantee in life you will pay tax. And I also can almost guarantee with almost 100% certainty that there will be a tax question in your HSC. So without further ado, let's take a look. Sabrina's taxable income is 86725 in a particular year. The table below is used to calculate her tax payable. In addition, she pays the Medicare levy, which is 2% of her taxable income. There's your table, and it says calculate Sabrina's net income. Okay, so a couple things here. That's your taxable income. That's everything that we need to calculate the tax in the table. We also need to note that she pays the Medicare levy, which is 2% of her taxable income. And then we want to find her net income. And just don't forget, net equals to gross minus deductions. Okay, so deductions in this case, it's not an allowable deduction for work. It's just anything that's taken out. So what this question is really asking is, after she pays tax and after she pays her Medicare levy, how much money does she have left? That's what this question is really asking. Okay, so first things first, let's calculate her tax payable. Okay, because we know that she's got a taxable income of 86725. And so I can see that she fits in 86725. She fits in this category here. So again, I'm just going to use what the tax table says. It says 3572 plus 32.5 cents. So I'm going to write that as a decimal, 0.325 for each dollar over 37,000. So in other words, it's going to be my taxable income. I've definitely written too many numbers here. 86725. I don't know where I got that extra six from. And I'm going to take away the 37,000. That's how I calculate every dollar over 37,000. So if I calculate this part here, 3572 plus 0.325 times in brackets 86725 minus 37,000. And I like to put it all in one step in the calculator. I think it eliminates errors as long as you put it into the calculator correctly. And so we can see she has to pay 19732.6. It says 625, but that means we're going to have to pay up to 63 cents. Okay, because money is always two decimal places. Now, my Medicare levy is 2% of my taxable income. So in other words, it's 2% times, and my taxable income is from the question, 86725. And that gives you 86725. That gives you a total of 1734.50. Okay, again, two decimal places for money. And so that's how much he has to pay tax. That's how much he has to pay Medicare levy. And so let's find her net income now. So her net is going to be her gross. So that means in this particular case, it's just going to be our 86725. That's her total income according to this question. And then we're going to take away all her deductions, which in this case is tax, 19732.63, and then take away my 1734.50 because I'm taking that all away. And let's see what she's got left. 86725, take away 19732.63, take away 1734.50. And it means after all her tax is paid, she's left with $65,257.87. And that there would be that question. Okay, took a little while, but that's the go with these tax questions. You kind of have to read into the awesome little bits. Now let's calculate one more question. Okay, slightly different, but similar. It says here, the table shows the tax payable to the ATO for different taxable incomes. So there's your tax table. Now it says here, Peter has a gross annual salary of 84,000. She has tax deductions of 1,000 for work-related travel and 500 for stationery. The Medicare levy that she pays is calculated for her. It's 1.5% of her taxable income. And it says Peter has already paid 18,500 in tax. Okay, that is a fancy way of saying that's her pay as you go. And so we are now trying to calculate if she needs to receive a tax refund or if she owes money. So first things first, before I could calculate this question, I need to know her taxable income. And I don't know it yet. The last question told me straight out, but this one here has not told me my taxable income. Taxable income is my gross income minus allowable deductions. Now, what is an allowable deduction? We know her gross income is 84,000. An allowable deduction is anything that is kind of considered for work. Okay, so in this particular case, it says she's got tax deductions of 1,000. So I can take away the 1,000 and I can also take away the 500 because that's for stationery. I assume it's for her work as well. Okay, so if I calculate that, the taxable income will be this number here, 82,500. That there is her taxable income. Now that I've got this number, I can now find her tax payable, and I use this number. Okay, if you get the first part of the question wrong, chances are the rest of your answers will be wrong, and you're going to have to detail your working. So in case you make a mistake, they will hopefully be able to give you some marks for correct working. So tax payable, let's run it through the table. She's over that 80,000, so she's in that bracket. So again, I'm going to follow the prompts, 17547 plus 37 cents, which is 0.37 for each dollar over 80,000. So in this case, it's going to be my taxable income minus the 80,000. Now I could probably have done that in my head, but I'm going to write it down anyway, because in an exam, you're better off putting your thoughts on the paper. So 17547 plus 0.37 times in brackets 8,500 minus 80,000. Calculate that, and I can see that her tax payable here is 18472, and that's how much tax you will have to pay. Now, that's not the only thing she has to pay. The next part I have to consider is she also has to pay a Medicare levy. Okay. Now, in this case, her Medicare levy, which is usually 2%, but in this question here says 1.5%, it's going to be 1.5% of her taxable income, and her taxable income was that number there. So 82,500. So that would be times 82,500. That's going to be 1237.50. And so now I can find how much total tax she needs to pay. It's going to be her tax payable plus her Medicare levy. And so in this case, it's just going to be 18472, sorry, plus 1237.50. And that's going to give me 18472 plus 1237.50. That's going to give me a total of 19709.50. Two decimal places for money. Okay, it's not looking good. So she has to pay that much. That's what she owes. Okay, now her payee is 18,500. Okay, 18,500. So you can see she owes more than she's paid. Okay, this one's a fancy way to say what she's already paid. And so what's going to happen here is she will be owing, and we can figure out how much she owes by minusing those two answers together. 1,709.50 minus 18,500. So it means that she had to pay that $19,709.50, but she's only paid 18,500 over the year. That means she's going to have to cover the difference, which in math terms is minus 19709.5, take away 18,500, And so she will need to fork up another $1,209.50. She will be that much owing. And I would write that down. If she was getting a return, a refund, then you'd write that down. So that there is a 4 marker. There was a lot of work, but if you just calculate each step, please don't forget, always start with your taxable income. From there, calculate your tax payable. If there's Medicare levy, account for that. Find the total tax, and then figure out what her pay-as-you-go is, or pay-G, and figure out the difference, okay? Figure out if she needs to be owing more or if she has money coming back to her. Hopefully that makes sense, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you guys later. Bye.